Now, the next segment is called Big Censors, Censors Free Speech, using the Trump DC as an excuse. They are using this as an excuse. They are gaslighting people, lying people, only showing the footage that makes everybody at that rally look bad. Like we say, whether you agree with them or not, a lot of the people, the majority of the people, they were fighting for election integrity, to stop the steal. They believed that the election was fraudulent. Trump had talked about it. He talked the reasons why. And now they're trying to make that a crime. They started right off the bat, fam, where they suspended Trump's account permanently. And this is from the experts at CNN. After close review of recent tweets from Donald J. Trump, his account, and the context around them, we have permanently suspended the account due to the risk of further incitement of violence, Twitter said. In context of the horrific events this week, we made it clear on Wednesday that additional violations of Twitter rules would potentially result in this very course of action. And the last tweet he made was, I'm not going to be at the inauguration for Joe Biden. They said, oh, inciting violence, pulled it. Failed.
Right? They waited for him to say that and then said, oh, it's because of inciting violence. What? A lot of people, though, are going to be at the Joe Biden inauguration, and I would hope maybe, I don't know, comrades, what do you think? Maybe there should be a counter protest, not necessarily what, some of the more violent factions want to do, but maybe there should be a counter protest like, Joe Biden, we don't want you to be president unless you give us these 10 demands. Maybe some of us should form that and organize that. I don't know, but that's an idea, right? People have proposed that idea, have told me, Fiorella, you should do this, you should do that. And I'm like, well, we need people to actually do that, because right now they're all just ready and willing to let Joe Biden become president just like that. Because trust me, after this, they're going to crack down on every single leftist and activist, as Pasta said. That's exactly what's happening, right, fam?
That is exactly what is happening. But I also want to talk about, fam, really quick before we get into this, because we heard the speech. They're playing parts of the speech. I was saying, how did he incite violence? He kept on saying, we're going to march down peacefully. Let's take a look at some of the other comments that some of our other politicians, Democrats, have made and say if this is inciting violence or where we're at. Ayanna Pressley said there needs to be unrest in the streets. Kamala Harris, and her hair's a little frizzy right here, protesters should not let up. And she said several times, they're not going to stop. These protests are not going to stop. If you see anybody from the cabinet, in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd and you push back on them and you tell them they're not welcome anymore, anywhere. Sister Maxine, and then fam, your fave, Nance. I just don't know why there aren't uprisings all over the country. Maybe there will be.
Fam, can I say something? Do the last one.
Well, the last one is Donald Trump.
Yeah.
But he said, once again, he said, go home and love and peace, the whole 9 yards. I don't want to harp on what he said, whatnot.
Yeah,
But I didn't even think this was inciting violence. I thought this is okay.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I just want to say, yeah, like, I wouldn't consider any of these people inciting violence, because that carries a specific thing, like go to XYZ's house at 333 blah 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 and do this and that. Like, you have to prove that. And if you think that is, you prove it in a court. And if the website wants to say, hey, I'm going to flag this because it has an address and that's different. I don't see this as inciting violence. I do see this as politicians being opportunistic and taking a tragedy and trying to rile up people against each other. That's what it is. But hey, they have the right to say it. If you didn't think any of these things were violent, and you think what Trump said is, then you're just partial because of the supposed ideology that you have. But there in no way is consistency. Consistency is saying what he said is not inciting violence. What they're saying is not inciting violence either. Or all of it is. You can't have it both ways, people. This is why people have such a hard time with me, for instance, and I'm sure you too, Pasta, because we're consistent. Like, when it comes to this, like, we were out in the streets filming people, the police hurting BLM people hurting journalists. We were out in the streets getting arrested for that, mazed, tear gassed, getting our windows broken in. We will fucking be there and film that. But we're also not going to stand by and let the narrative be kidnapped to further divide us and say, oh, everybody is this. This is all violence. This is a coup. This is a terrorist attack. It is complete, like, just this exaggeration that's going on. Right, fam?
Big time. And we've always said this, I guess it's kind of the line of work we're in, where we're very kind of conscious about our civil liberties. And when they take them away from us, they never give them back. You know what I'm saying? From the get-go. And they use them by causing division and getting people scared. And that's what this is. The only one of these four ladies that I think is questionable is the Maxine Waters one. That's the only one I said a little bit, well, I don't know about that one. If you see anybody from the cabinet in a restaurant or a department store, I mean, there needs to be unrest in the street. Protesters should not let up. Why aren't there uprising? That still means peaceful protesting. But that one in particular is the only one I really I'm not crazy about. And what the main reason why people were there, and the main reason, the mechanism which the establishment is using to divide us, to take away our freedoms, is the fact that a lot of people that feel that these elections were fraudulent, right? And it's just crazy because once this happened, here comes the big purge. Now you have Donald Trump saying he's going to have a transfer of power. So now no big tech knows it's in the clear. Now they know they got their guy going into the White House and they're safe and they can do what they want. So the CIA, who's behind half of these, these big tech people, whatnot, or they work in conjunction with them, they started their little purge. So I put up other outlets who are being suppressed. The expected, Tracy Beans, right? So woman's never really incited any type of violence, never said anything, whatnot. She's had certain CIA characters come in there and talk, or ex-people were involved. Patrick Byrne being one of them, the ex-CEO of Overstock.com. But her account, suspended, take her down. She's too much of a right-winger, a pro-Trumper. We don't like what she has to say. Steve Bannon, his YouTube channel, pulled right away. Because mainly, and the excuse was he was making false claims about the election. You can't question the elections, fam. You question the elections, we're going to say no, no, no. The walkaway movement from Facebook, yanked. Once again, walk away from the Democratic Party. His name Brandon Straka, dude, removed. Saw a lot of his stuff here and there. Saw some a little piece on RT years ago. Didn't think the guy was violent, just didn't want to be part of the Democratic Party anymore. And his whole ideology was walk away, walk to the Republican Party, right? But here's the one, fam, the way it starts to get hairy, because this is the thing we say, they're going to come for them, but they'll eventually come for you. Well, they didn't just come for them right away. They immediately came for you. This one right here really hurts. The People's City, LA. All right, the People's City Council, LA. This is the group that holds rallies in front of Garcetti's house, protesting rent relief, protesting poor people not getting evicted from their houses. They work with eviction lawyers like Elena Pop and other people, whatnot, to get poor people help. Well, they just took them down, fam. Your thoughts on that? Because this right here is what it's all about. And if people don't wake up, because to me, one of the biggest problems we have in LA, if not the biggest problem, is housing. We have hundreds of thousands of people on the streets. This is a huge problem. And these are the people who are fighting for the people who can't fight for themselves. And they got pulled.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, any sort of dissent against the government, the Democratic establishment or the Republican establishment is going to be now met with censorship, if not outright complete denial or gaslighting into, oh, you are anti-government, anti-democracy. That's what we're seeing the beginning of. Like, it's not like this didn't happen before. But when a Silicon Valley major company, a corporation, a multi-billion-dollar corporation can censor the president of the United States and take his whole account down, what do you think they're going to do to the rest of us? Who do you think is in charge then, right? And so when I see people like accounts like People's City Council LA get taken down, people found out about marches, protests, thanks to them. They found out information, all of these things that help the community hold these politicians accountable, and now you don't have that because you wanted to suppress the voice of Steve Bannon, who, yeah, I think he's a piece of shit and I can't stand the guy, honestly. Like, I despise his ideology. I think he's a horrible human being, but guess what? He still has the right to say what he has. The ACLU in the 70s literally defended a Nazi group, a actual flat out like real Nazi group with
Nazis from
swastikas
marching. Yeah,
to their right to protest. And the ACLU then said, yes, they have they have the right. This is hate speech. It's still protected. It's not inciting violence. They have the right, because that's been going back and forth. People like bringing the hate speech argument. The last part of that argument in the court did protect hate speech. Like, you can't, you have to prove that there is ability to incite violence. I used, when I was younger, I was like, you know what? Like, I don't think that's fair. I think we should get rid of these people who are Nazis and saying these things. Why would we allow that to happen? It offends so many people. Like, about 10 years ago, I used to think that way.
yeah,
And I brought up, the paradox of intolerance, like, if you're too tolerant of intolerance, then you eventually become, too tolerant to fascism, blah, blah, blah. But that's not how it works, you guys, because as I progressed and as I understood things, and a lot of people are throwing that meme at me right now as if I didn't read it 10 years ago. Sorry, you're a little late to that. I understand that you were not going to defeat fascism by pretending it doesn't exist, shutting it up and putting it away, and pretending that half of the country doesn't exist. If we want to fight those people, we fight them in open, with discussions, with more speech, with more dialogue. We denounce their hate by facing them. Okay, there are several people who are Black Americans who have done that and gone and talked to Black Klansmen, or to Klansmen, and they have changed their minds. Okay.
yeah.
And Glory Jones and Steve interviewed actually this one woman who's amazing, and she managed to do that. And this is possible. It's not fun, and I'm not asking all of you to do it, but I'm saying that, this whole idea that you can defeat it by completely censoring everybody, it ends up screwing the working class, people of color, gay people,
Yeah.
trans people, all the people you say you want to protect. This is the result of that.
Yeah, and that's the problem. A lot of these progressives, they act on their emotions. The guy I was talking about before, his name is Darryl Davis. Just look him up. Just Google in or DuckDuckGo in, KKK member gives Black musician robes. And he would collect their robes. He would get them to leave the Klan, and he would take their robes and he would keep them. And, as a sign of like, hey, man, I went and talked to these people. And Dr. Cornell West said on our show, everybody's had some type of problem. They're at one point at one time in their life, and they can get to another point. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's going through something. So we can win these people over by talking to them, and just, what I'm saying? It like you said, you can't take it, put it aside, put it in a nice little box, and just silence it that way. It's never going to work. You can't do it. And once you start opening up those gates, I want to really read something that somebody sent me really quick on Instagram, talking about the progressives and saying how they're just being duped for this, this infringe on our civil liberties and our freedom of speech. It's really frightening. And what's also creepy is how many progressives, or maybe progressives, I follow are cheering on Trump losing his Twitter account. They all need a history lesson in why, in 1978, the ACLU protected the Nazis' right to march in Skokie, Illinois, a village that was half Jewish, many of them Holocaust survivors, and also learn why the importance of this landmark First Amendment case. They should look into this, fam. They should learn this. You were just talking about this. One problem I see increasingly is the Nazification of the politically correct, who identify as leftists, but are authoritarian in their mandates for everyone else. They're short-sighted, spoiled, and don't seem to realize how fascistic their stance is. Why isn't even one so-called progressive bent out of shape about anyone challenging an election result after what we went through with Bernie? Why is one? Why does one progressive give a shit that anyone destroyed property in the Capitol building, where lobbyists bought Congress members destroy their constituents' lives in a myriad of ways? They really do act like conflicted adult children of alcoholics, as the Jimmy Dore calls them.
It's true, fam, and that's exactly it. And it's for me, it's like, why are you so pissed off that Nancy Pelosi got, something taken? I mean, she's taken so much from the American people. She's given us nothing. Why are you so angry that in the halls of justice, where these politicians supposedly draft legislation to do their fucking job for you, they haven't done shit? Why? You know why? Because the left didn't do it. I think that's part of it too. If the left had actually done that, they'd all be cheering and saying, "This is great." Da 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 da. Like, if they had managed to do that. But you know what? They're not going to let somebody that really wants to take over the government and actually do something about it. They're not going to let you get even that remotely close, because if they can't frame it in a way to vilify you, they're not going to let it happen. It's going to get really bad. So if you ever want to take power back, you need a lot of people, a lot of people on the same page. And it can't be fully violent right away. You can't do that. They're gonna use it to vilify you, and that's what we're seeing here. Is that a very poorly organized, completely just not one. There was no one goal to do this, right? It was a plethora of people doing different things, and some people weren't happy with what went on. Just like I've seen in other, in the BLM protests, where I've seen some people want to be more radical and some people don't. And so again, I'm not saying it's the same cause. Obviously it's not at all. And it's definitely not the same ideology, but I am saying that they're both being manipulated and being taken advantage of by the establishment and by these people. So there's a couple of them too. We have Red Scare Pod is a leftist podcast.
What's up? Who is that?
It was a leftist podcast. I didn't really know that much about it. I just know it was really popular on Twitter. They were taken down. And on Facebook, the Progressive Party. It was a group that was disabled because the thought police at Facebook decided that one of our moderators shouldn't be allowed to speak his mind. We still have 51 subgroups for each state in DC, but the main group is of 8,500 people was disabled. They're appealing it, but they'll likely overturn it. This kind of shutting down on popular speech is ironically the fascism that platforms like Facebook claim to want to shut down. Sad, sad day. Hundreds of people have reached out directly asking what happened. If anyone is tech savvy and knows methods to contact Facebook directly and any help you're willing to provide will be much appreciated. And so they're there. And this was the Progressive Party. It was just a group of people trying to start another party or another set of ideas for a party. Yeah. And they were also shut down.
You can't even reach out to these people. You can't get a hold of them. We don't have a number to call on YouTube. They shut us down. You didn't abide by our guidelines. And it's so vague. And that's how they do this shit. And then when they have to face the fire, you must have tripped the algorithm. We'll turn you back on. Yeah, but when you have a group, when you have a party, when you have a channel, when you have a podcast, momentum is everything. Momentum is everything. And if they can slow down your momentum, they cause you financial distress. And if you have financial distress, you can't do this full time. So they suppress your opinion. It's just very much more nuanced. And by the way, before we get into these people we're about to get into, Kat Terrell left a super chat contribution on our YouTube, but really nicely on the Rockfin. The Super Ray is just jumping up, guys. 35 people. Make fam happy. Give us 50. We need 15 people from you YouTubes to come on over to our Rockfin and help us out over there. It makes you. I'm going down really quick. On the Rockfins and the Super Ray, we have Mohammed Afzal. Thank you guys. Keep telling the truth. Just like Glenn Greenwald, Julian Assange, Chelsea Manning, Edward Snowden. You rock with the heart. Mohammed, you rock. David Guevara, he gave us more of a tip because he didn't think he gave us enough the first time. Thank you so much, David Guevara. That's 2 tips for you today. We appreciate you always reaching out. And also we have Giancarlo Venezuela Sagora. Keep up the great work. No, you keep up the great work. Thank you for coming on over here, giving us these Super Rays.
Maduro was a champion of the people.
Champion of the people. I want Johnny to say that. I love when he says that. Brian Foch tipped $10. Let's get the Convo couch back to DC. Let's make this trip happen. Sherry McCray, thank you so much. Thank you for your courage and your commission.
We got to get back there, guys. We got to see. We got to film this.
You guys. You want to go back there, don't you?
Oh, of course I do. Of course.
Christine Lund.
Who, literally people are like, thank you for putting your life in danger. It's like, I didn't feel like my life was in danger, but we did feel scared at one point. Not because people were necessarily being crazy, but because I felt something was going to happen with the police and everybody else, and there could be like a trampling because there were so many people. Like that's what was really like the fear that I had. You know what I mean? Like it's we've gone to right in front of the police with them pointing guns at us. I mean, we do this not because we just want clicks. Like, if we just wanted clicks, we would be peddling the same mainstream media narrative that the vast majority of the neo-progressives are saying. Oh, everybody's a fascist. Oh, this white supremacist. Oh, impeach, imprison, and, denounce Trump, everything he did, blah, 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 blah. Like, that it would be so easy to do that. It would really stop all the hate mail that I'm getting, all this hate, like, literally on social
it's
media.
a lot
You
easier.
wouldn't believe.
I'm second guessing what I'm saying and shit right now. Like, the other day, like, I just got called. I was told I was part of the Confederate again. Like, you MAGA lover, and people.
Y'all don't know what the Confederate is, motherfuckers. Like, I'm freaking
like,
from Florida.
Like,
come on.
shit.
Like, I know what that is. Like, these people, the vast majority of them, Pasta, live in California. They have never interacted with actual white supremacy. They don't have the experiences myself and Johnny have regarding racism. They definitely don't know how to talk to people on the other side. They live in a liberal fucking state. They literally don't know. I've grown up in so many different parts of this country. I've known people who in my family who are on the right, and that goes to show you that Trump grew his base, and it's really scary. I mean, the vast majority of my family are Democrats, but I don't like that either. So it's like they don't know how to have these conversations. Like, it's just so easy to call somebody a Nazi collaborator or a partial to white supremacy or defending them when you don't understand what's going on. It's just so easy, but it's ridiculous. Yeah. When you come from the background I come, it's ridiculous to be called that. It's like insane. God knows what they call you, but if they're calling me that, I mean, it's like
no shit. And a lot of, like I said, I don't think a lot of people grew up around people of color like we did. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody's like, oh, you went to high school in Boca Raton, and I'm like, yeah, there's 3-4 areas of Boca Raton. One was Pearl City, one was Dog Patch, where I'm from, and the other one we called Cumberland Farms, because it was out by a Cumberland Farms convenience store and stuff like that. So I had a lot in common with some of the poor kids that were bussed over from the other town, and we were friends. Like, I went to my senior prom with a couple people of color, picked them up, whatnot, and I grew up with people, and I see a lot of these social justice warriors, white knights, and I'm like, where the hell have you? It's like, I'm like, shut the F up. You don't even know what you're talking about. Jim C left a super chat contribution. He says, what about their messenger accounts? Are they suspended too? A lot of people use that instead of email. I don't know, man. You might want to take a look into that. But, when you have a platform on a YouTube, on a Twitter, on a Facebook, and you've built a following over the years, doing so much work, putting your blood, sweat, and tears in it, and they can just yank it because you have a different ideology or you have a different thought than them. I think I share a lot of ideology with a lot of progressive friends. At the end of the day, we don't want to see people suffering on the street. We don't want to see people starving. We want, what I'm saying? It's just the means and ways we get there. But the lack of nuance from these people, and the way they are just so easily duped by feelings and emotion and stuff. It's like, no, people, ladies and gentlemen, you got to look into the deeper, consequences if we do things like this, which the AOC and the squads and the new squad are doing. Natural Progressive left a little love there. Thank you so much from Roar.
Thank you, guys.
Roar Media, we love you. We really do appreciate your your love. Seattle fans. And I got 2 more real quick, and because we get into the next one. Donnie Known, and this is something interesting. The reason why I wanted to read this one, it says we need a new form of decentralized social media platforms to replace Facebook and Twitter. But that's the thing. Look what's going on with Parler. It's going to be shut down tonight because the actual Johnny, what would you call that runs the platforms, that controls the platforms, they're pulling them off. Is that the server?
Yeah.
They're yanking them. So right now, it's like, what do? You still need some form of cooperation or permission from the state, whoever runs these satellites and stuff. You can't just go and just put something up. Eventually, you can look at what's going to happen to Parler tonight. And the Italian Stallion, this is my inner cheat, just want to say that I am honored you used the picture I sent you about the Progressive Party page getting shut down by Facebook. Means a lot. You put it out there. It wasn't my page, but I posted there a lot. Italian Stallion. That's what paisans do for one another. And that's why I did it
Just
for
laughing at the
you.
name Italian Stallion. That's hilarious.
We do have another Super Ray really quickly, and that's from Andrea at over on the Rockfin. Guys, get on over to that Rockfin. Don't piss Fiorella off. She's already pumped up. We got 39. We need 11 more of you. We want 50 per show. Thanks from all the videos from DC. Where are you going to go next? Back to DC. And then who knows from there. But once again, the crew is already, we are all in on this. We're trying to get all our gear together so that when we get out on the streets, we can stream live, and you can count on us to give you up-to-date stuff, because we'll get in those messy spots. But in all seriousness, ladies and gentlemen, we're not making this up. They were jamming our feeds.
Yeah.
You know, Jay Burmis talked about it. Poikinen talked about it. They were jamming our feeds. So live streamers could not do their jobs. Only the real news could.
So fam, let's get to it with AOC.
Yeah. AOC and the Fraud Squad. Cheers on censorship. Here's AOC's tweet from the other day, okay? What are Apple and Google Play going to do about this? Once again, talking about Parler, right? So they take a Parler, and I know what this is like, ladies and gentlemen. It happened to me the night before Stop the Steal. I put up a Parler. Somebody took a picture, brought it over to Facebook, and then they started beating on me, Facebook style. And I wasn't even like, you know, I said progressives, true progressives should be standing with these Stop the Steal people, because Bernie was cheated twice.
No, they just want to smear you.
Here. Yeah. So what she did, this calls for violence on Parler are getting much worse. There are now open calls for murder of police officers and planning the violence on January 20th. This obviously severely violates the law, much less the Apple Store and Google Pay rules. Hashtag pull Parler.
So,
and this dude Colonial IT Perez puts down. You want me to read it, or
no? Go ahead.
You want to just talk about it real quick? I was going to say, today, January 6, 2021, we Patriots by millions have arrived at Washington, D.C., carrying banners of support for the greatest president the world has ever known. But if we must, many of us will return on January 19, 2021, carrying our weapons in support of our nation's resolve, to which the world will never forget. We will come in numbers that no standing army or police agency can match. However, the police are not our enemies unless they choose to be. All who will stand with the American patriots, or who cannot stand with us. Taken. That would be a good time for you to take a few vacation days now, the American Patriot. Fam,
so, I mean, look, this, if you're talking about inciting violence, you could potentially argue that. You would have to say, you know, where they're going to go. But here's the thing, guys. We have drones, we have bombs, we have a massive security, right? To pretend that the police weren't prepared for this, because you have to shut down Parler so they could have better equipped for this. That's bullshit, because they had it in the DHS memos. They had all this information. They had everything to know that these people were coming. There was a memo to the mayor. I mean, like, I'm not even lying about that. God, I didn't put it in the folder, but I'll bring it up because we're going to be talking more about this, because I have a certain way that I think that we need to be looking at this, because I agree, Pasta, like this in particular is going to be used against any sort of dissent. So like I said, if we wanted to protest Joe Biden and say we're going to demand all these things, if these people come out because you took down Trump's Twitter, you completely gaslight them on election fraud, you completely have allowed Trump to become this martyr, which, by the way, he didn't have to be, right? You're still pushing impeachment. You're still pushing all these things. You're taking down all these right-wing accounts. What do you think is going to, what do you think that's going to do? Do you think people are just going to sit back and do it and take it? And I think this is a result of that. But also, you got, like I said, they can defend themselves. They can put security. This could be all talk. It could be, they might not get that many people after everything that happened. But the reality is AOC is, I don't think she's that smart. I think she's actually a tool, being used as a tool, because she's parodying these talking points that are perfect for the new incoming war on domestic terrorism. This is it, folks. This is it right here. She is peddling the beginning of that. Oh, what are you going to do about this national security state? Google. Silicon Valley, what are you going to do about this? Can you please shut it down? Are you fucking kidding me? The violence? What about the violence, AOC, that you didn't care about regarding Venezuela? What about the violence in the Middle East that constantly happens all the time? Where is your outrage about the violence? What about the woman you voted for who completely gave Trump more than he wanted for his military budget? What about that fucking violence? That's violence. Violence is American people not getting anything, not getting more than $600, not getting health care. Violence is what us screaming about force of vote when we were already surrounded by cops when it was 30 of us, and yet these people get to walk in, take over, and now it's a domestic terror attack. No, you were fucking scared. All of you were scared that people were unhappy and that people were going to rise up. So you have to divide them now and you have to make them terrorist villains in order for you to silence dissent. That's what's going on here right now, Pasta. That is exactly what it is. She's a fraud and she's proving to be exactly what Jimmy Dore said. And all these people are going to continue saying, oh, how dare you? She's just defending herself. She was scared. Oh my God, her trauma. Shut the hell up. Like, that's completely, like, it's all bullshit. This whole thing is an entire psyop.
All right, I just got something that showed me that somebody's I wouldn't trust it. They didn't spell the name right there. It's Parler. Pasta is on there. I found him. I got on yesterday. Same tag as my Twitter handle. The interface is slightly worse in my opinion, and there's no dark mode. But I'll take it over the censorship. So somebody was like, "Hey man, I found Pasta on Parler. Go over there." Some people were calling for feel like, "Get Fiorella on here." I'm like, "Well, it might take a little time. Wait till she gets suspended on Twitter, and then she'll come running right on over."
Pasta, people literally are mocking that, like literally, like, oh, wait till she goes on Parler. People are already saying I have a Parler when I don't have a Parler, because because they saw your thing, and because I was saying what I was saying about censorship and about what happened. Like it's like, oh, if you're on Parler, you must be a right winger. There's plenty of leftists I know that have a Parler to either spy on what the right is doing and see, or because of election integrity, or because of the censorship. Whatever the case may be, there are other people. Is it predominantly right wing? Absolutely. It shouldn't be, though. You shouldn't let one entity, one ideology take it over. That's the problem. That's the fucking problem.
Yeah.
Jesus
well, the
Christ.
whole thing is that they're, as far as that first Parler that we saw from that person talking about we bring our guns, I would say Parler should take it down. But once again, by the time they catch up to these things, psyops can come on there. That could be somebody from the left putting that on there to cause problems to get them shut down. That's not a common thing on Parler. Is the ideology very different on Parler than it is on Twitter? Yeah. I mean, the Rose Twitter is just out of hand. And it's the echo chamber for neoliberals and neo-progressives now, when it was just more, like the what do you call it, the public square of everybody talking. But the fact that they banned right-wingers from Twitter has really hurt the platform, and people are scared. They're going over to a Parler. Kim has a Parler over there. Niko has a Parler over there. So we'll see. And what are you gonna do?
I already see these people like saying, "Oh, well, Niko, duh, he's a right winger." Oh,
yeah.
Tim,
we're
guys,
getting suppressed left and right. We're going to wait until we get shut down completely. And here's the thing that really drives me crazy, fam. You might say, and we saw a lot of the neo-progressives, especially on that one thread that everything's going crazy, that you might think that the election fraud accusations were QAnon, off the wall, bullshit. You shouldn't talk about them. You might think they're off the wall and they might be false, but to say that people can't talk about them, furthermore, to say that our congressional leaders like Hawley can't talk about them and the other Republicans that objected can't talk about, is just incredibly blowing my mind. Now, Cori Bush, that was a name we rooted for this girl on. She was a fighter for social justice, but we always questioned what was going on because she didn't say anything about civil liberties. She didn't say anything about foreign policy. Here she is. Cori Bush introduces legislation to sanction, remove House members from office who supported 2020 election challenges. That just blows my freaking mind.
Can you click on it?
She is now my least favorite member of the squad, along with Jamal Bowman, the both of them. I mean, what kind of world are we living in that you can't even talk about something? You can't question the results of the election that have proprietary software? And I put that post up, man, and people just went after me. They went after me hardcore. Fam, your thoughts about this?
Yeah, this is yet again proving my ever growing secure theory slash reality that, Caitlin Johnstone and Glenn Greenwald have talked about and also been brutally attacked, that this is all a psyop. The House Resolution 17th Congress first session is dated January 5th, 2021. They had this already in play, you guys. This is a date right there. You can see. And let me see if I can pull it up so I can read it. But I wanted to highlight a little bit of it because honestly, how either they're clever, what is it? They're psychic and they knew this was going to happen, or they already had something in plan. Look, for weeks, the Democrats, since the beginning of his presidency, they've been trying to impeach him, right? They failed to impeach him on Russiagate. They could have done it on the emoluments. They chose not to because they would have impeached themselves. So then they're trying to do this when he has less than 2 weeks to leave. They're trying to impeach him. These were the articles of impeachment. And this is drafted January 5th, like I said, and it says directing the Committee on House Administration and the Committee on Ethics to investigate and issue a report on whether those members of the House who have sought to overturn the 2020 presidential election have violated their oath of office to uphold the Constitution or the rules of the House of Representatives and should face sanction, including removal from the House of Representatives. Bush submitted this resolution, and you guys can see that this is scary. Like, why is she, regardless of what happened on the Capitol, whether you think it was a coup, whether you think Trump was involved, whatever, why is she trying to remove people questioning the election? That's their right. It's an American right to question our elections, especially when we can't look in the proprietary software.
Yeah. It's their duty to question that and have a discussion on the floor about it.
If the public is questioning it, yes, you're right. Yeah. It's their duty to do what the public says and say, you know what, let's look at this.
Especially a conservative, and if I'm saying he's a conservative, libertarian-minded senator from Missouri, and they, and just like, I mean, Jesus Christmas, I don't want to start there and defending Ted Cruz right now, but Ted Cruz has the right to stand up and talk about these elections the way they are and stuff like that. Everybody does. You know what I'm saying? We have a corporately controlled elections, and the fact that they're telling people that they're going to get punished for questioning the elections, I mean, that blows my mind, fam. We are in some scary times,
fam.
And
no, and not to mention the fact that this is nothing new. Like, what happened when Al Gore and Bush, when Al Gore was cheated by Bush, we questioned the elections then. Like, what Democrats wanted to question the elections then? Like, what? Yeah. I don't understand. Like, you're acting like questioning elections is it's undemocratic. It's undermining the integrity of our democracy. I'm sorry, how? Like, that is as American as it always has been, questioning our elections, because people don't have trust in the elections. People don't vote because they don't trust the elections. So I don't understand how suddenly I forgot to put up Primo Nutmeg's quote, but it was basically like, it was okay to question the elections with Russiagate. It was okay to question the elections, even with Bernie Sanders to a degree, by some of these progressives. It was okay to question the elections with Bush v. Gore, but somehow we get to this moment, and not only can we not question the elections, but everything we've said up until that point by Twitter controlling stories that would make Biden look bad, everything up until that point has been absolutely like looked down as conspiracy. And now they're calling people who are telling the truth conspiracy theorists. Why? Because wait a minute, you just want to take it at face value when we can't look into these machines, when the United States has a history of literally not just overthrowing democracies all over the world and placing their puppets in there, but also doing the same thing to our own elections. Yet somehow we always have to blame a boogeyman, whether it's Trump, whether it's Russia, whether it's China, whether it's Venezuela. Like, no, guys, we do it ourselves. I mean, this is what we do. This is nothing different. This is nothing different than what we do across the world.
By the way, we have 43 people over on Rockfin. Oh, we went to 42. Come on, guys, let's get to 50. Brian Deutsch says, great job. Tipped us up again, giving us that super ray. Thank you so much. That is pretty awesome of all of you. We love it. We have 469 people on YouTube. Some of you guys, get over to that Rockfin. Help us out. What we're talking about is censorship, and it can really, really hurt us. Rokana, your boy fam, says Parler is hosted by Amazon Web Services. Amazon should deny Parler services until January 21st unless they commit to removing all posts related to incitement of violence concerning the inauguration. This will help prevent further violence and save lives. That seat doesn't belong to Rokana. That seat belongs to who, fam?
Silicon Valley,
Silicon Valley. And your boy, the Humanist reports, my only criticism is that it didn't happen soon enough. He's going to be fucking pissed. And he was talking about Twitter safety, saying after a close review of recent tweets from the Donald J. Trump president account and the content around them, we have permanently suspended the account due to the risk of further incitement of violence. You know, that is like two people right now, I think, who really expose themselves. The Humanist Report and Jordan Sheridan. Jordan Sheridan saying anybody who talked about, who peddled this conspiracy theory stuff, you YouTubers out there who are not real journalists like me, should be taken down. And here's the Humanist Report bragging about censorship and saying it should be done. But, fam, Caitlin Johnson, your girl, she comes to your rescue. And I put this tweet up because kind of mocking these people, because I think you had a certain tweet similar to this. Liberals learned the words coup and insurrection like 5 seconds ago, and now they are academic experts on both of these things. Didn't you say something about sedition?
Yeah. They're saying that this is sedition. This is like an insurrection. This is terrorism. Oh my God, let me clutch my pearls a little bit harder. Oh, like, what the hell is what changed? Like, except the fact that a bunch of right wingers did it. That's what it is. Like, it's disgusting to see, Pasta. And like, Caitlin's also been called like a Nazi sympathizer. I remember even a few years ago, I was like defending her, like saying, you know, what are you talking about? Like, she's literally holds accountable everybody. Like, she's across the board consistent. Like, they don't recognize what consistency is because for so long they've been fed a biased narrative. And a lot of these progressives want to continue being fed a biased narrative. They want to continue, people just want cheerleading for these politicians like AOC and the squad. They want you to cheerlead Bernie Sanders, never criticize him. They want you to just cheerlead every single progressive that they care about and basically just put a stamp of Medicare for all and a Green New Deal, and that's it. Like, that's not real journalism doing that. It gets you a lot of clicks and a lot of likes, and it doesn't get you that much of an attack. But the real work is holding people accountable, even if they're on your side, or literally people who aren't on your side, not painting them all as criminals and evil and terrorists, because you know that the greater agenda here by the oligarchy is to actually get people to fight and to have zero conversations. And it's journalists like Caitlin Johnstone who literally are able to put that into perspective. I mean, they just don't even know what this is. Like, all these, especially these liberals, right? They have no idea what a coup is. They have no idea that their government literally commits coups all over the fucking world, that Joe Biden was part of the administration that couped a really democratically elected leader, Manuel Zelaya, in Honduras, with Hillary Clinton as Secretary of State. They don't know that the coup in Venezuela that AOC was supporting. By the way, AOC follows Juan Guaido. Why the hell does she follow him? I could follow Juan Guaido to spy on him as a journalist, but she, as a congresswoman, she has zero reason to follow Juan Guaido. But she did defer to
as a DSA member,
Venezuela, so.
Yeah, which was fun, ladies and gentlemen. We got to meet a lot of people from the Gray Zone. Mad Max, Blumenthal, Anya Parampel, Dan Cohen, speaking at that beautiful Action for Assange Day 2 rally, eating cake and juice in front of the where were we? What building was that? It wasn't Homeland Security. It was the Department of Justice. It was great when Max got out of the car and he was like walking up to the rally. He was smiling so happy because at that day they announced that they weren't going to extradite Julian Assange, but then he also laid out the ruling in the case. Pretty much the people who invented war, the Brits, said that American prison is too rough and they shouldn't move him there. He was at risk of being killed and whatnot and committing suicide. But the reasons why they even sided with the reasons from CNN and MSNBC and all these other bullshit outlets on what Julian Assange, what they claimed he did, which is just was false. But fam, let's talk about Corn Pop. Corn Pop said something about we need a strong Republican Party.
Exactly. And again, this is going along with what I'm proposing as this theory that I think we're going to see develop in the next few weeks. Peter Dow posted this breaking: Biden says attack makes job easier. We're not going to listen to the full 6 minutes. I'll stop you, Johnny. But Joe Biden basically said that the attack on the Capitol makes his job, quote, easier. Biden also praised Mitch McConnell and said America needs a strong Republican Party. Who else said that? Nancy Pelosi also said that. So let's take a little bit of a listen.
And you have called for unity and healing in this country, but after the events of Wednesday, does that make your job easier or harder?
I think it makes my job easier, quite frankly.
Unity and healing
I've had a number
in
of my
this
Republican
country,
colleagues,
but after
former colleagues, I used to serve in the Senate for a long time, call me. Many of them are as outraged and disappointed and embarrassed and mortified by the president's conduct as I am and Democrats are. And I think I have said from the beginning, and I have not changed my view, my overarching objective is to unify this country. We must unify the country. And I think that you've heard me say this before, and I apologize for repeating myself, but understandably the questions are repetitive and good. I mean, I'm not being critical of the question. And that is that there's two ways people are inspired: by inspirational leaders and by terrible leaders. By terrible leaders. What this president has done is rip the Band-Aid all the way off to let the country know who he is and what he's about and how thoroughly unfit for office he is. And you see already a number of Republicans. I was so proud. I know we're on opposite sides. I'll get criticized from some of the people in my party for saying this, but I've worked very hard with and against the former, soon-to-be former Majority Leader, Mitch McConnell. I thought what he said on the floor of the United States Senate was, in fact, the right thing to do. He stood up. He's ashamed. I spoke with a guy I have enormous respect for, and I ran against him, Mitt Romney. I spoke to Mitt this morning again. This is a man of enormous integrity, who lives his faith. There are so many more, but there's others who should be ashamed of themselves. But they make up a minority of the Republican Party. This isn't about Republican, Democrat anymore. This is about people who understand what this country's about and the things we have to agree on and move together on. I just think that if you look at it, speaking to some of my Republican colleagues, and I've spoken to a number of them over the last month since we've been elected, through recently as the day in which this god-awful debacle was taking place up on the Hill. And I think they understand that they're going to have to, we need a Republican Party. We need an opposition that's principled and strong. And I think you're going to see them going through this idea of what constitutes a Republican Party. And to hear some of my colleagues, Republican colleagues, talk about how shameful it is of the way Ted Cruz and others are dealing with this, how they're responsible as well for what happened.
Do you think some of them should resign? Should Senator Cruz or Senator Hawley resign?
I think they should be just flat beaten the next time they run. I think the American public has a real good, clear look at who they are. They're part of the big lie. The big lie. I was being reminded by a friend of mine, and maybe you were with me, I can't recall, when we were told that, Goebbels and the great lie, you keep repeating the lie. Well, there was a print that when Dresden was bombed, firebombed, there were 250 people.
All right, Pasta, your thoughts on that? Unmute.
I'm looking for a garbage pail to see if I can throw up in it.
I mean, if you guys listen to what he said is actually really scary because he's saying we need a real opposition party. And Joe Biden, I agree. We need a real opposition party. The real opposition party isn't the Republican Party. Not the one you want, like, to be honest. Like the what he's basically alluding to here is the fact that, oh, this isn't about the Democrat and Republican. This is about Americans coming together and da 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 da. What he means by that is we don't want a real opposition party. We want to keep our nice Republicans who are part of the establishment, part of the status quo, who aren't going to rile up any kind of dissent in any way, shape, or form. That's why we got rid of Trump. That's why we don't like, all these people that are still like pushing the election thing. And then we're going to, we really, that's what they call opposition party. Actually, the opposite is what they want. They want, he's naming people like Cheney. He's naming people like Mitch fucking McConnell, saying that I agree with Mitch McConnell. This is it, guys.
Ted Cruz,
this
Lindsey
is the great
Graham.
reset, or whatever it is people were calling it. This is what we're talking about here. This is the new age of where you're not going to have the lines are going to completely blurred out. They're going to put civility in here, saying, "Oh, this is what we need. We need to come together, have civil discussions." They don't mean have civil discussions. They don't mean that. They literally mean controlled opposition in the Republican and Democratic contingents. They mean that they don't want any dissent, and this makes his job easier. Yes, it does, because now all you have to do to vilify dissent is say, oh, election fraud is a right-wing argument. Oh, what, you want violence like what happened on the Capitol? Oh, now it makes his job a lot easier. He doesn't have to fight the fractured Republican Party now, because that fracturing, whether you want to call it the Trump's party, the Tea Party, the right-wing populism, all of those people are now deemed right-wing white supremacist terrorists. So they don't want him anymore. So what they do want is some sort of civility fucking bullshit to happen in order to get their agendas passed. Their agendas include mass surveillance, zero anything for the people, and just any amount of crumbs to placate the masses, and that's it. And it increasing spying and foreign policy blunders.
They do definitely want to increase the security state because they want to know when you're coming. You guys have made your voices loud and proud out there. And it's a shame you're being duped to going right back into the same spot you started with. Like you talked about 10 years ago, how you thought something and how you evolved. But they've literally, what you talked about when they got people to go back into the Democratic Party and only took one election cycle after cheating Bernie twice, they did it right again right now with this stunt right here. I mean, who is this guy going to unite? Nobody likes this guy. If you want to sit there with the argument and saying that, well, Joe Biden didn't win, Trump lost, people voted against Donald Trump. How is this guy, which I don't believe, by the way, how is this guy going to unite anybody? He can't get 50 people together in one room. In one room. And really, to tell you the truth, I think that parlor comment was just to scare a lot of people off from going. Because, the latte liberals get really, really scared. So, I want to see what happens. And I think there'll be something that will happen the day before where they'll have to cancel the outside normal inauguration that happens to hide the fact that nobody likes Joe. And they're going to hide those numbers. And I think there's going to be a lot less people there than you think.
Yeah.
Because nobody wants to. Who does this guy inspire? Nobody.